Oh, hey, hi, hello. Welcome back, Alexandrian Codex, etc., etc. I ain't streaming this because I'm lazy. Wait, what? Oh, okay, Windows, don't pull. It's like 10:30 in the morning. I'm going to sleep in like an hour. This had nothing to do with the mod project that I'm supposedly working on, but have not been in a headspace to code. All the work is done for it. I just gotta sit down and do the nitty gritty, but gotta tell you, man, working 5 graveyard shifts a week. Not great. Makes me really cherish those couple of days off to get the fuck out of my apartment, and if I'm out of my apartment, can't code. I could have sensibly be coding overnight, but I'd have to buy a laptop to do that on because you bet your ass I'm not coding on a company computer at work. That aside, this is Islanders. You've probably heard of it. It's pretty good. If not, well, hey, let's take a look. Yeah, it's just sandbox mode. I fucking love Islanders. This is such a good mental health game. So really the premise is, this is a new island? Oh, I hit sandbox. I'm a smart man. High score mode. Yeah, I was gonna say, that ain't right. That ain't right at all. I wouldn't even begin to know how to describe this game. That's not true. I probably could. I'm not going to, though. Seaweed farm, for sure. So really, you have objects you place in the world. Those objects give points. Points give you score. Score lets you get more objects, and eventually new islands to build on. In theory, this is a leaderboard game where you try to do better than everyone else, but let's be real, most of the time the folks on top have cheated their asses off like mad, so I'm not emotionally invested. Let's put it that way. So you can see, based on the proximity of certain things, different buildings get different bonuses, and it's broken down in the score here. Base score of 10. For every seaweed field you get 4. For every statue you get 3. Okay, seaweed fields -1 base score. For every farm you get 9. So I can either put both of these down and add 8 to this, or I can put this down first and build both of these after for 9 each. So you have to do some math. You don't really have to. You don't have. You don't really have to. I'm tired enough that English does not parse correctly. Boom, there we go. Then you pick a new set and you just keep doing it. I don't like farming pack. I don't like lumber pack. I like the sea-based packs because there's like infinite space out here. Let's go with lumber pack because this really has a bit of a time crunch to it. Put down seaweed first because seaweed's easy. Seaweed's pretty hard to get wrong. I'm sure out there's a pretty contentious community, elite community that are real hard asses about the order that stuff should or should not happen in, but really 90% of the game is like moving your mouse around and going like, ooh, bigger number. Can I get bigger than previous number? No, it's not looking like I can do better than 14. So these give bonuses for sawmills, statues, and trees. 1 for every tree, 4 for every statue. Really? So you get 8 from down here. Interesting. And 5 for every sawmill. Sawmills get bonuses from lumberjacks, warehouses, and statues, so it makes sense to put down a lumberjack first. This audio is just a little loud, isn't it? Gonna cut out completely there in BD. Yeah, that's a little better. Alright, sure. Settle on the 14 there. So it's been a not terrible summer, man. It's been a long one, and it's been one hell of a transitionary period. Let's put it that way. That was a good way to be ambiguous about it and not rude or needlessly dramatic or descriptive, even, I should say. It's I really like my new place. I really like the neighborhood I'm in. I don't love my job. I am a night auditor at a fucking condo. And it's boring, easy, but real boring. And yeah. It's fine, but it's not anything to write home about. Though, you know, in writing home, I do mention it because I don't have much else going on right now. Now, the modding project, it really was more of a research project. I was working on something that was really interesting and provocative and moved me, right? Like, we're not in the United States, and I'm speaking from my own experience here. We're not taught a whole lot about the 1800s with respect to the indigenous peoples of the United States, or if we're talking about Canada, First Nations, like at all. Like, there's a little bit. We talk about, if you're fortunate, the Trail of Tears, but that's always contextualized around the Cherokee, and we don't talk about the a dozen or so major other tribes, nations, that got relocated. We don't talk about the... Oh my god, what did the Dine, the Navajo, what did... Long Walk? Was it just called the Long Walk? Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. Maybe a little bit of that, but really it's pretty succinct and brushed over. Really, the 1800s as a whole are kind of brushed over in American history, because surprise, surprise, we don't like, and by we I mean white people, don't like to sit and talk about and think about the whole slavery thing. Or if we do, we talk about it in a self-aggrandizing kind of way, like, isn't it great that we don't have that anymore? Yeah, we're so progressive and we've moved on so much from there. You know, we have our own problems. I wouldn't say anything I read was really surprising, except for how Canada has relocated indigenous peoples further north in order to use them as a way to claim ownership over northern islands. That came as a bit of a surprise. I always, and this is an inaccurate way to view it, kind of viewed Canada as being benign, politically benign. But I'm definitely speaking as an outsider there. It's super interesting stuff to look into, but also, like, real fucking depressing. And that's why, that's a big part of why my work on the project has stalled out, is I've been trying to take a lot of time and a lot of energy and a lot of money, to be frank, to focus on my mental health, to focus on my happiness, my comfort, my well-being, my sense of liking myself and remembering that I like myself, and pretty fundamental shit, man. But these are easy things to lose track of. I made a mistake. I should have had the houses going out from here so I'd have room for more mansions in here. I guess I could plop you down here. Yeah, sure, this is not optimal, but we'll play with it. It doesn't matter. We've already unlocked the new island. Basically, this is your next life. You can lose, but if you lose, you just get a, ooh, here's your score screen, not a Lamau, you're so bad screen. It'd be a major change of tone for this game if it were. Yeah. I would really like to... So there's a few reasons why I'd really like to finish up the mod. One, it'll make me feel real good about myself. And not gonna lie, that's pretty high up there on the list. we all, and maybe I'm generalizing here, we people, human beings, start a lot of projects we don't finish. I start a hell of a lot of projects I don't finish. God, I can't tell you. I have 2 tabletop role-playing games that are frozen in development right now. One because thematically I'm reconsidering a lot of things with science fiction. You know, we show a lot of how does science fiction reflect our attitudes about colonialism and neocolonialism, and is it aggrandizing those things? Is it glorifying those things? Is it critiquing those things? How, and the way that we make the game and we stylize the game and frame the game and talk about essentially colonialism in space, different, how do we address that? How do we include comfortably non-European, non-colonizer folks in those spaces, in those games, without making them feel othered and outside it? And I couldn't really find good, satisfying solutions to that, so I put a hold on it. I've been reimagining the context of the game, the mechanics of the game, the reward structure of the game, and trying to work away from that. But truth be told, it's pretty fucking hard to do. I like space operas. I like the idea of the final frontier, but you know, I like it for the hopeful reasons. We're better to each other and better to the ones we don't understand or don't identify with, living in an egalitarian society, etc., etc. And you know, it's nice and shiny, if you'll take my Firefly reference there, we do not exist in that world. We exist in the 21st century. Some of us exist in the 19th or 16th centuries. And our current values and current politics and current lives impact and color our experience with games and our experience with media more broadly, more accurately. And I fervently believe that all art, games included, are political, are a commentary or reflection on the world that they exist within. Good art does it intentionally. Good art does it thoughtfully and mindfully. Lowbrow art doesn't think about that, in my mind. And God, there are a lot of fun games out there, a lot of fun space games out there that definitely... okay. U4. Victoria 2, Crusader Kings 2, Hearts of Iron 4. Strategic games, they really excel in certain areas. But my main gripe, and if you go back and watch any of my series on them, I eventually get to the point where I start complaining about this, is that the premise, the unstated premise of the game, of most of those series, is that success, as the game defines it, necessitates violent conflict, necessitates colonialism, necessitates slavery, necessitates jingoism, xenophobia, crusades, inquisitions, things to that effect. I get it in the way that I was talking about white people being self-congratulatory when thinking about slavery in the United States and how great it is that we move past it, etc., etc. U4 and a lot of Paradox games kind of get that feeling when it comes to the past. Like, haha, you can do horrible thing because horrible thing was a thing in the 1500s. And like, oh yeah, you can settle all of North, Central, and South America, but don't worry about the peoples that live there or made their homes there or were major powerful entities there. We're not gonna model them just because you can do this fun colonial. I'm off on a tangent, but quality mechanics and something being a good game, a good series of mechanics that play well together and synergize and form a new interesting whole, does not make it good art. I would not describe many Paradox titles as being good art, and I say this with Paradox being one of my favorite, if not my favorite, game development company and game publisher. Studios and Paradox Interactive and Paradox Development Studios, respectively. Yeah, they don't make the kind of art that moves me. The kind of art that moves me is the kind that is considerate of the world that it was created in, considerate of the peoples it impacts and affects, those who might listen to or be educated by its narrative or impacted by its narrative. If you spend any amount of time, really any amount of time on EU4 forums or Crusader Kings forums or Hearts of Iron forums, and I mean the forums or subreddits or discords, well, really I wouldn't know with the discords because I'm old and I don't use Discord because, fuck man, I don't know, my IRC days are behind me and it just seems way too reminiscent. I get grumpy and like, oh fuck, I don't want to do this again. It's the same feeling I get when I even think about playing an MMO. Like, oh god, I ain't got the time or energy for that. There are a lot of jokes, a lot of references in that community to, like, and Paradox has reached out and tried to moderate it a little bit, stuff like referring to the Ottoman Empire as kebab. Now, I know this is old meme meta and has been mostly excised from the community, but there is a tendency of these communities, particularly some parts of the Hearts of Iron 4 community, to be like real friendly to racists or real sheltering of racists, and not like passive racists, but like race supremacy type folks and people who really get off on being able to play Germany in the 1930s and 40s and win, and you know, it's difficult to deal with, right? Because anytime you make a game like that or a series like that, you're kind of inviting that difficulty. And how you deal with that difficulty, how you address it, how you meet it, how you moderate it, really says a lot about you. And I think it speaks volumes to Paradox's attitude and the moderation efforts that they have undertaken. It's good. It's not great, but it's good. They could do more, though. They could do a lot more, but you know, they are a for-profit company, and while personally I may believe that political influence and being an active political instrument is more important than being an active financial instrument, I'm also not a capitalist, and I'm not in charge of things there. So I get we have different values in that respect. It really does raise, in my mind, a question of accountability. Like, if you make a product that attracts a community of neo-Nazis, of Nazis, of fascists, of religious extremists, of racial extremists, etc., etc., sexual predators, abusers, are you accountable for recognizing the community and communities that use your product and, create an atmosphere around your product? Are you responsible for taking ownership of that as a company? Are you responsible for shepherding that and moderating that and addressing that? Or are you not? Now, I feel like more often than not the answer there is maybe, but until something major happens, most companies and corporations just kind of turn a blind eye, because if people are buying and using your product, then, don't bite the hand that feeds you. I just... So I was taught in school a little bit, not a lot. I didn't go to school nearly enough for museum management and curating. But when you curate a museum, when you curate an exhibit, really when you curate anything, whether it be a body of art, whether it be a literary collection, any collection of art, media, medium, anything that tells a story, you are very intentionally crafting a narrative. You're telling stories to the people who look or listen or whatever else, however it is that you consume this media. You're telling them about the world, and you're informing their worldview through these representations of different people's worldviews. So it's on you, at a certain point, the political impact of the body of work that you accumulate and that you put on display. So, by extension, I feel like game publishers should be accountable, not developers. Developers should be accountable for the work itself, but maybe 6 of one, half a dozen of the other here. I feel like one or both should be held accountable for the political and social impact of their product. Really, I think and feel most corporations, most businesses should be made to be more accountable for the social and political impacts of their products, of their commodities, of the communities that consume and reproduce those commodities. And I don't feel like it's a very extreme or fringe thing to say or want. I mean, it seems fairly standard that if you yell fire in a theater, etc., but, well, that's not the world we live in. It's sad. It's really sad. It sucks liking a series like U4 really a lot, like a lot. But the community consistently has made me uninterested in engaging. They're good, great, intelligent, passionate folks, but a lot of it is meme horseshit, which, whatever, I can get down with. I'm not super excited about it, but I can get down with it. Except when the meme horseshit is just like boring and repetitive, like LOL, I made Rome, and haha, look, it's not nuanced. not really. Maybe not nuanced is the most polite way that I can put it. It's really not nuanced. It's really circle jerky and uninspired and kind of It's been a long time since I saw anything worth a damn on the EU4 subreddit or CK2 subreddit or really the Paradox subreddit. You might imagine that in creating some of the most complicated and in-depth, in certain respects, historical simulations, and I recognize that the products are no longer being sold as historical simulations, but as grand strategy titles because yada yada yada, it sells better. I would think that in creating products like that, you would attract folks with an interest in a genuine academic interest in history, in historical critique, in historical analysis, in nuanced ways of looking at the world and where we've come from and how we've changed, and talking about the difficult spots in history in a mature, nuanced kind of way. But, you know, maybe I'm just fucking old. Maybe I'm old. Maybe... No, I don't think it's that. Because when I went to school, when I went to college in Arizona, I was not from Arizona, but I was going to school in Arizona, my hope was, in going to college or university, whatever you want to call it, depending on your corner of the globe, my hope was to find more people interested in learning, more people interested in exploring ideas and making the world a better place, or at least a more interesting place, in trying to better understand the world and the people within it, and trying to figure out this puzzle that we all fit into, right? If I'm human, what does it mean to be human? Well, you can learn about that biologically, psychologically, historically, anthropologically, sociologically. You can learn about all these little different aspects of what it is to be human, chemically, etc., etc. And in all these little pieces of the puzzle, you get closer and closer to being able, or being more able, to answer some of the most tantalizing and, well, really tantalizing is a great word choice here, because Tantalus, it's constantly out of touch, or out of reach, not out of touch. Academia is sometimes out of touch, but out of reach is what I meant. Just out of grasp questions. Who am I? Why am I here? What does it mean to be human? What does it mean to be alive? Etc., etc. Now, these are more philosophy than anything else, but it was my interest, my hope, really the thing I pinned a lot of my hope on, was in going to university and going to college, I'd be able to find more people like that. More people who weren't really interested in going to school for an accreditation or a degree, saying that they did something that no shit they could probably do, that any high school graduate could probably do. I was more interested in finding good, interesting people. People who could teach me and learn from me. And in some ways I found that. In some small ways I found that. But not through school. School was, if you've gone to college, largely a disappointment. There were some fantastic instructors and professors. Shout out to, if I'm shouting out to one, I'm gonna feel like a real dick if I don't shout out to like 5. So Zoe Hammer, you the best. She taught a lot of sociology classes, is the best succinct way to describe them. Very Marxist, very materialist, and I was pretty idealist, and she gave me a lot of shit, not in a condescending kind of way, but in a raising good, valid, difficult questions, and oh god, what is the word I'm wanting here? Confrontation with certain ideas that was incredibly valuable. Jim Stuckey was great. Absolutely great. Taught communications and psychology courses. I wasn't a psych major, but I took them anyway because it was anthropology and history adjacent. And, God, I hate temples. LOL. Atheist hates temples. No surprise there, boys. Yeah, we'll just ignore that for now. Really talked about a lot. We talked a lot about learning being a process, and part of it. I'm trying to think and talk at the same time. I guess I just shouldn't do that. Talked a lot about his class was the first that I really started getting the value of learning journals, of journaling topics while you're reading them and learning about them. He challenged my use of the English language a lot. For example, when you say "I think," what you are saying literally is "I am currently thinking or conceptualizing this thing." Oftentimes when we say "I think," what we mean is "I feel," as in this idea that I am expressing is a conclusion I have already reached, is a thing I have already given thought to and developed. Saying "I think" is a pretty closed door. Saying "I feel" is a lot more open. And things to that effect. A lot of good communication is not just what you say or how you say it, but is in thinking through the minutia and details and building blocks of what you're talking about. Nah, it's a shame that that's the only thing I can say about Jim, because he was a very positive presence in my life, and I thought very highly of him. But it's been like 9 years, 8-9 years, depending on what year I'm talking about, and old man Alex can't remember things anymore. Then I had some very interesting professors in Elmira in New York, but I was not talking about them yet. That said, God, we're not gonna do great here. What am I at? 30 minutes? Yeah. I was talking about, this is just gonna lose me points. This is just gonna lose me points, I think. Yeah, and this is just gonna net me nothing. So this is where I'd move on to the next island, but I think I'm gonna put in a cut here, but I'll finish this point first. It was disappointing that Paradox didn't represent this community that I had been wanting for so long. And really, the older I get, the more I believe it doesn't really exist, that these academic circles are a lot smaller and a lot more exclusive and exclusionary than I've been hoping, and that really these attitudes are kind of they're not for everyone, man. Most folks don't have the time and energy to sit around and think about and explore life's mysteries intentionally, because capitalism has us all, a significant number of us barely making it through. I think that for what it is, the Paradox community is an entertaining place. It's not what I wanted, and I'm increasingly convinced that what I want doesn't exist, which is kind of sad in a way. Not really. Not that bad. Anywho, this is do I put in a cut? Do I not put in a cut? Tell you what, I'm gonna keep playing, but I'm gonna put in a cut so I can actually start putting content up. Man, I don't know. Maybe I'll get around to putting content up more regularly, but this is it for today. Comment, share, like, subscribe, etc., etc., etc. I'll probably get back into streaming when I have more time, which I don't know when the fuck that is gonna be, or if it becomes more lucrative, because it is work, my dudes, and I'm doing it unpaid. And if I choose between that and getting precious vitamin D, I gotta take care of myself. So, till tomorrow, toodaloo. See you then. Bye bye.